Welcome to Women Kicking Glass, the only radio show on OC Talk Radio dedicated to empowering women to be the best leaders they can be in any endeavor they choose. Patty Grimm is our host and interviews top women in a variety of fields to help women grow, learn, and lean in together. Patty has over 25 years of experience in primarily male-dominated fields in senior-level management positions. Patty is the owner of Advantage Training Limited, an organizational leadership team training company. She recently released her new book for women called Quiet Women Never Changed History. Be strong, stand out, and stand up. With the subtitle, Let's Go Kick Some Glass.
And that's what we're going to do this morning. Let's welcome Patty Grimm in and start kicking.
Hey, sounds great. Hey, thanks everybody, and welcome to Orange County Talk Radio. This is Women Kicking Glass. This is the only women's radio show on Orange County Talk Radio, and possibly all of Southern California, that's really dedicated to women. It's by women, for women, and about issues they care about. So each week we'll be talking about various topics that relate to women. Topics may be things around if you're in the corporate world, climbing the corporate ladder and getting that first promotion or getting that pay raise that you know you deserve. Maybe you've decided to leave the corporate world and either start a nonprofit or start your own company, like our guest who will be on the show today. We'll also talk about social issues and health issues, things like cyberbullying, breast cancer. We'll talk about things like human trafficking and raising brave girls so we have a better future for our girls and our daughters and our nieces and possibly grandchildren that are out there. And also balancing the demands of work-life stress and things that women face in today's environment. My guest today is amazing, and we actually have a lot in common, Denise. Since we both came from banking, our vision and mission is very, very similar as I was reading your bio, but I do want to highlight some things about Denise because this is really impressive. So Denise has inspired and empowered millions of people across the nation to take control of your financial life. So this is all about money. How do you take care of yourself, your family, and make sure you're financially secured? What's really impressive is that in November of 2014, when Denise actually shared the stage with former President Bill Clinton to help lead the world's largest financial literacy education program at USC, or University of Southern California. The event was attended by more than 6,000 students who learned about financial literacy. It actually set 2 Guinness World Book records. I mean, this is amazing. It was the largest financial literacy training ever and the biggest financial literacy training in one venue. So that is really, really impressive. Denise is founder of Money Start Here, a financial education company, which I think we all need from the time where, what always bothered me that even in high school, junior high school, sometimes they don't teach financial literacy to our children. But her financial education company is based on things like her book, her TV appearances, her DVDs, her seminars, her speaking engagements, and other media coverage. And she covers this tough issue of money in a fun, entertaining, and educational way that everybody can understand and really get them around. And she's a certified, qualified financial expert. Past few years, she's reached over 1 million people via 150 media outlets, 10,000 colleges and high school students, which I'm thrilled about, with lectures to thousands of corporations. My mission is very similar to Denise's mission. Her mission is to make a difference, which is very, very similar to mine. And she's actively involved in the anti-bullying campaign, the Great American No Bull Challenge, Junior Achievement, Teen Mentoring Programs, Angel Flight, and the Great Pyrenees Rescue. And I'm involved in the Pug Rescue. So another thing in common. She lives in Bakersfield, California with her husband, Doug. So we're doing this as our first Skype interview, which is kind of exciting. So welcome, Denise. How are you doing?
I am doing great and so happy that I'm here with you, Patty. So thanks for such a, we do have a lot in common. As you're reading that, I'm like, oh, we do.
Well, I worked for Bank of America and I worked for First Interstate for a number of years. I was a vice president of First Interstate when I was 28. So tell me a little bit about you and about your career. And we'll start with sort of that. Tell us about yourself, your career.
Can't believe that you were vice president at 28 because I was a manager of the branch by 27. So how amazing is that? And I've worked for 12 banks in the 25 years that I was a banker. The banking industry, there's one acquisition after another that keeps coming together. But basically, my story's a lot like a lot of other people. You're young, you're going to school, you graduate, you go into the workforce, and thank goodness I actually started in the banking industry, which at 18, I'd actually lived on my own since I was 16, so I was very familiar with money and day-to-day skills and how much you needed that. So interesting enough, I ended up in the banking industry, and what's great, as you know, in banking, you have a front row seat, and you see every transaction, every debit card transaction, every check written, every credit card charge. I did loans for people. I climbed the ladder. I started as a teller, and then I ultimately was a branch manager and then a business relationship manager. So I have the full gamut, but you realize as a banker how money impacts people's lives and what people know and don't know about money and how that impacts them. So, leading cause of divorce, anybody? Yes?
Money.
Money, yes. And the research shows that financial stress suppresses your immune system, which makes you sick, which makes you go to the doctor, which drives up healthcare costs. And guess what? According to Harvard, the leading cause of bankruptcy would be medical. So this is not a surprise. And you think about that, especially when we're talking about our kids. This is a topic, money will impact every aspect of your life. Pretty incredible. Banker for 25 years, and then about 7 years ago in the crisis, I jumped off and started doing financial wellness programs for corporations and for schools, and that leads me to my work today.
Yeah, it's interesting. I started in banking. I graduated from Cal State Long Beach here locally with a degree in education, and California passed a law that froze taxes for homeowners called Proposition 13, which was great for homeowners. But if you were a brand new teacher fresh out of college, you were out of a job all of a sudden. So I went to my godfather, who was an executive vice president for Bank of America, and said, I need a job. And I started out as a teller and moved my way up. I ended up falling in love with banking, and I never thought I'd be in banking. Got the best training I ever had from a basic financial training, but also management training. The best management training I ever had came from what I learned at the bank. So anyway, so you were a banker for 25 years, and you must have seen it all. I'd love to get together with you sometime because we could share some funny stories. Why do so many people, especially women, why are so many women and people so financially stressed?
It's so interesting and fascinating to think about our culture and how we got to where we are. As a banker, I very, very rarely had anybody walk in and apply for a loan and say, I can only afford payment X. They walk into a financial institution and say, how much do I qualify for? Because we don't teach money as a life skill, it's very, very easy to be undereducated and misinformed and just go out and get your first paycheck and not really have an idea about budgeting, about credit score management, about women especially. Think about this. We're out of the workforce sometimes bearing children. We're out taking care of our parents. Sometimes we may make less than men. I mean, there's so many things. A lot of single parents out there, single mothers out there. We are just so busy living life, and we never stop and get a grip and figure this out. So, that's why a lot of my work is done in the media and for corporations and actually for graduating high school students and for college students with a lot of my financial literacy programs.
So you said a little bit about this, but let's talk a little bit more about how does financial stress impact a person?
Especially women. Oh, boy.
We take it all.
You open the show about how we can make a better place for our daughters and our nieces and our children and our grandchildren. And going back to how serious money is, we make between 6 and 10 financial decisions every single day. Whether you stop and get a coffee, whether you take your lunch, whether you buy something, we get 1,500 ads pounded on us every single day on our cell phones, our iPads, our TV, the radio, Pandora, all of them are there. So when we look at how money impacts us, it really has the ability to impact the quality of our lives, our relationships, again, going back to the financial stress that puts on a relationship, and again, our health. If that financial stress suppresses our immune system, it impacts our health, which limits our ability to show up to work fully and functionally. Our bodies and minds are our money makers, and so if we are stressed and distracted, not only does it hurt our financial situation, but it also limits our ability it limits our purchasing power and our ability to secure basic needs. And then we don't show up to work as financially or as present as we should, which limits that organization's profitability, your company that you're working for, their profitability. Sometimes that drains government resources, and overall, all of those things stunt our economic growth. So it's a big problem that I feel like right now in the economy, people are finally grasping. I'm doing a lot of work with colleges, mentoring programs within colleges.
Great.
And the student leaders are the ones asking for financial literacy topics. Please, please give me something, which is so inspiring.
Yeah, one of the things I had heard recently that in some groups I was involved in is that the millennials tend to be more financially aware, and they ask some of the tougher questions because they want to know more about it. They don't want they've seen what have happened to their parents or maybe grandparents that got in credit card debt or had gone through the downturn in the economy, and the father or mother lost their job, and they maybe had to sell their home, and they've seen all of that. So they seem to be more asking more critical questions, which they do anyway. You know, all my friends that have millennials also, working from all say, could they just stop asking questions? And I'm like, no, don't stop them. So are you finding that the new generation coming up is maybe thinking about this a little bit more than we did? Because we thought money just grew on trees.
Mm-hmm. No, you are dead on, Patty. So on point. Yes. And, you know, in the work with some of the foundations that I'm working with and with these student leaders and in these programs, they are millennials. And it is, some of them come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and maybe minority, where their parents, you know, may not have access to certain programs. And yes, they are asking those questions because they did see it. And I think that, you know, in the media, we've seen some of these large banks, you know, being in the news about opening accounts and opening credit cards. And, you know, there's a lot of mistrust. And so the students are really looking for unbiased financial education. They don't want to be sold. Just tell me what I need to know so I can make an educated decision when I am either opening an account, getting a loan, or getting a credit card, evaluating student loans, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and I'm actually talking to a number of folks, a number of millennials and like children themselves are saying, you know, I don't want to go to a big bank. I don't trust a Wells Fargo, the big banks. They're looking for community banks or credit unions. They're looking for a smaller, more intimate, maybe you get to know your banker a little bit better because like you said, in the big banks, we all got bought out. I mean, First Interstate, where I work, got bought out by Wells Fargo. I just talked to somebody yesterday from U.S. Bank, and I think she's on her 5th buyout. So maybe that's just something to think about.
I think you are absolutely right. They want to know what questions to ask. You know, I have My Financial Academy, and it's an online financial literacy program. And I work with a lot of nonprofits and foundations and colleges and high school and students just in even cities, and housing authorities. And really what they are wanting is just tell me what questions I need to ask so that when I show up to open an account or I show up to get a loan, that I can make that decision and I don't get taken advantage of. So I think it's amazing. I've been doing this for so long, and to have people really asking and pounding on my door right now for these programs is really, really exciting.
I'll ask you at the end, but also now that you're talking about how would people get access to these programs that are online, or how would they find your information?
They can actually go to moneystartshere.com. People always ask me, gosh, what do I do? Where do you start? Like money starts right with me through financial education. So moneystartshere.com. And if you can't remember that, you can always go to DeniseWinston.com, which is basically Winston Churchill. It could be Winston Tires. It could be Winston, whatever your memory triggers, DeniseWinston.com.
There's a lot of talk right now about financial well-being and financial wellness. What is it and how do you define it?
So according to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, when it comes to financial well-being or financial wellness, they're kind of interchangeable words. And this is a really hot topic in the corporate world right now. When it comes to what does that mean? In the present, basically it's defined as control over your day-to-day, month-to-month finances and financial freedom in the present to make choices so that you can enjoy life. Now, when it comes to the future, it's also the capacity to absorb financial shock and to stay on track to meet your financial goals. Key thing, have financial goals, right? We want to have financial goals, and we want to have some type of emergency savings. So, you know, that's what it is as a whole.
Give the audience some examples of what you mean by financial goals and targets.
So we rarely stop to figure out. A financial goal course that I have online, it's called How to Get What You Want. Stop and ask yourself, what do you want? Do you want to be out of debt? Do you want to have an emergency cash reserve? Do you want to have a retirement account? Do you want to be saving for your children's college fund? You know, right now is a great time of year. A lot of people are going to be getting a tax return. And as soon as that check hits their account, I can tell you some parties are going on, and there's going to be some shoes bought, handbags, some vacations, some TVs this weekend because it's Super Bowl weekend.
Exactly.
You know, and that's what happens, because if you don't have a financial goal, you get involved in an emotionally charged I want to have because we're so busy. So financial goals to me is just something you want either now, short term, could be a new iPhone, new iPad, midterm could be a new car, and long-term could be, buying a house.
Yeah, but you have to have those goals, because if you don't have a goal, you're going to end up all over the place in terms of what you want to be. So one of the things that's in the news right now is, you see all these commercials, credit this and credit that. Why is your credit score so important?
Oh, my goodness. I've been known to say, it's an unknown fact that your credit score is one of the most important things in your overall financial life, because your credit score can limit your purchasing power, number one. That's what everybody thinks. But it can also dictate your earnings potential, because many employers will look at your credit score. And this is what the young kids, and the millennials and people that are going to school may not get. That credit score can limit your earnings ability, because a lot of employers look at it during the hiring process.
Wow.
It can determine where you live, because many landlords look at it before they're going to rent to you. It can determine your car insurance, depending on where whether or not you can get insurance and what the terms are. So a lot of people are looking at your credit score, and a lot of people don't know why. And so, that was a big factor because of so many things happening in the housing industry, so many foreclosures. People are now open to understanding and managing their credit score. So I think that's where the slow transitioning, where people are open and getting more education and awareness about how their overall financial life. A credit score is just like your financial GPA.
Right. I was thinking the same thing. I actually wrote down GPA. It's like we talk to our kids when they're freshmen or they're in middle school, they're in the 8th, 9th grade, when your GPA starts to count towards college. And I actually wrote down the word GPA.
It must be the banker in us. And working with so many youth, my online course is all about the fact that your credit score is your financial GPA. And it's a quick way for anybody to just ask you. A lot of things happen for bad credit. Somebody could get sick, somebody could lose their job. But if you understand some pretty fundamental stuff, and even in the business world, they don't understand how that credit score can limit their ability to grow their business and get things done in a really quick period of time.
I think most people probably knew that it might impact, if you're going to go buy a car, they look at your credit score. So I think most people might know this. They look at your credit score, and the interest rate you pay for your car or your home or anything else is based on that credit score. But I never thought about employers or landlords. That never entered my mind.
And it doesn't for most people. And that's why getting this educational piece to the youth and people that are out there, because think about it. And this is where I started as a banker, and you will totally get this. If you are a banker, you need educated consumers with a good credit score, because if they don't have a good credit score, they can't go into one of the local businesses and buy a car. They can't go into a local business and they can't buy their goods and services on credit, and they can't buy a house. So this is where it starts to really limit our economic growth if we don't take financial literacy very seriously and find some scalable solutions that are there to educate, not sell products or services.
Yeah, so why is this such a hot topic right now?
It's because people are aware. I don't know about you, but I hear on the radio, you can do a cash out loan on your home. You can do a home equity loan, and you can pay off all your credit cards. Have you heard those radio ads?
Yeah, in fact, I just heard something the other day when I was going between meetings, and I heard something about, we can consolidate all of your loans, we'll reduce your payments, and then you only have one check or one payment to make each month. I just heard one yesterday.
Okay, so this is what's alarming to us, and this is why it's so important that it's such a hot topic, and I think one of the reasons why people realize that this could happen again. What happened in 2008 and 9, we see housing prices going up. We they start hearing these ads, and people have charged up a bunch of debt. So if we're not careful, we may be in some serious trouble again. And I think that's where people are actually ready to be open. And I think because a lot of employers are putting this out there to their employees as financial wellness programs out of my work, as well as, the schools and some nonprofits and mentoring programs really helping educate people so they don't get taken advantage of, and they know what they're getting themselves into these days.
I just think a lot of people are just scared of some of the money issues. You said they have awareness, but I think they have awareness without knowledge. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And, when we're financially stressed, we like to self-medicate. Some people out there might be able to self-medicate with retail therapy, but I have to remember that my money looks better in the bank rather than on my feet. So keeping those things in mind is really important for sure.
Yeah, we have a couple of women that I'm involved in the National Association of Women Business Owners, so we have a couple of our NAWBO members that have wonderful nonprofits, but a couple of the nonprofits like Women Helping Women, they have a beautiful outlet store. And every time I see Trina, who runs the Women Helping Women organization, she's dressed to the nine. She has the perfect dress that matches the shoes and the purse.
Yep.
And she says, I bought it at Deja Nu, which is her store on 17th Street in Costa Mesa. give a plug to Tina today. Beautiful, beautiful designer clothes. And I think from head to toe, what she had on was, I know, under $100 and maybe under $75. So there's nothing wrong with shopping consignment stores. I'm a bargain hunter. I'll go through TJ Maxx or Home Goods, or Tuesday morning was one of my frequent stops. I'll stop in and see if I'm looking for something. Can I get it for a little bit less than I'd pay at a big store? I don't care whatever store, Nordstrom's or Macy's or whatever it happens to be. So
again, we are two peas in a pod. I'm actually known as one of the cheapest people in America, according to Reader's Digest. And I'm not joking. To me, it's cheap to be cheap. So I'm 100% with you. Why pay full price when you can get it for less?
And I had a friend that was just to the extreme on that, where she would negotiate with things I never thought of negotiating on. I was looking at one point in one of our homes to buy some really nice mirrors to hang on the wall because they're inexpensive and they're beautiful, and you don't have to worry about colors and things. And we're in like a Glass Plus place, and she's negotiating with a retail store, and they bid.
I've done the same thing at Costco. If you see something at Costco that's ending in 00, it's one of the last items. They want the floor space. You can go up and say, hey, you've got 2 of those left. If I buy both of them, can you give me a discount? And believe it or not, who knew?
Well, and here's another funny thing, and we'll take a commercial break in just a second, but one of the things I've done in a lot of my research is that women tend not to negotiate well for jobs or for raises or for working, if you own your own business, negotiating with a supplier or anything like that. And research shows that graduating students from Harvard, the men graduated with higher salaries because they negotiate for higher salaries. On average, 84% of the men got a higher starting salary than the women that only negotiated. Only 13% of the women negotiated. So for the women in the audience, here's a way to practice your negotiation skills before you have to practice it on the job. Negotiate at swap meets. Negotiate with TJ Maxx. I saw a table at Home Goods last week. I didn't buy it. I really didn't need it, but I looked at it. It was kind of pretty, and I thought, well, gee, I wonder if it was a little bit scratched. Would they take 20% off? And they would have. So practice your negotiating skills on little things. Negotiate with your kids for bedtime. Negotiate at a swap meet, and can I get 2 for 1 or whatever that happens to be. So we'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back, and we'll continue talking with Denise Winston on our Money Matters. I think it's absolutely a wonderful show. Thank you.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
When it comes to pioneers in their respective industries, we all know the Apples, Starbucks, and Trader Joe's of the world. In the realm of recruiting, Decision Toolbox is the industry's best-kept secret. With 90% of their business from referrals and repeat customers. For over 20 years, Decision Toolbox's U.S.-based team of recruiters, sourcers, professional writers, quality personnel, and tech support has perfected a Six Sigma approach to talent management. No matter the size of the project, Decision Toolbox delivers incredible results. A cost per hire less than half of what contingency firms charge, with the winning candidate presented in an average of 14 days, all with a 12-month candidate warranty. With results like that, Decision Toolbox won't be a secret for long. Visit us at www.dtoolbox.com for more information.
All right, let's pick it back up with Patty and her guest. I love that term. Your credit score is what?
Your financial GPA.
I love that.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's something a lot of people identify with. So this is Patty Grimm. I'm on Orange County Talk Radio, Women Kicking Glass. My guest today is Denise Winston, and she's founder of Money Starts Here. And so we share so much alike. It's incredible. But one of the things that has always bothered me is why is it so important to teach high school, college students, and maybe even middle school students nowadays about money and financial literacy? Our schools just don't teach basics.
They simply have been tasked with too much, and this is the really scary part. And I have literally been in the school system through teaching financial literacy, for probably 30 years now, whether it was with Junior Achievement or through my own programs that I've developed over the years. The reason why it is so incredibly important, which we talked about a little bit before, is that money impacts every area of our life, our relationships, our health, where we live, what we drive, whether we can seek medical care, what kind of quality medical care, whether we're going to be able to retire, whether we can put our kids through college. And if we don't give our kids a financial foundation, I don't know about anybody else out there listening, but when my daughter was young, she's 26 now, but when she was 10, her father and I actually divorced, and through that a lot of things happened, a lot of guilt, and busy just trying to survive. But when I realized my mother passed away, and I thought when Brandon was 13, I thought, gosh, if something happened to me today, and I would ask everybody out there listening, if something happened to you today, would your child be able to survive? Do they know how to cook? Do they know how to do laundry? Do they know how to make their lunch? Do they know how to break their breakfast? Do they know how to do some basic fundamental stuff? And at that moment when my daughter was 13, I was on a mission. I was going to change my behavior as a mother because I didn't have parents that were at home doing any of those for me. I felt like I was doing what a mother should do, but I realized I was basically inhibiting her ability to survive. So we started on a very aggressive path. We started picking it up. And think about in middle school, this is the perfect time for them to learn how to manage their lunch money. Yeah. Maybe to learn how to give them extra money just to go to the movies with friends or to go to sport events or something. There's some strategic things. We want them to make a mistake with a $20 allowance, not a $2,000 a month pay check, right? Right. So learning how to not give into immediate gratification and delay gratification, and even teach them financial goals. And when you think about it, think about everything you have to know when you go into the job market. Quick story for you. You want to hear a story about a college student that I just recently met?
Absolutely. Would love to hear it.
Met a girl in Houston, Texas, and she had just finished school at University of Southern California. Fight on, all you Trojans out there.
Go Huskies.
So when I was talking with her, she had a little gap. She said, I'm going to start my first job in a couple of months, and I have some downtime, and I know nothing. So she went through the Before Your First Paycheck series in the financial, my financial academy, and she learned about budgeting and what debt to income ratios were. She did the financial goals and set some financial goals. She went through the debt management course. She went through the credit score course. She went through the health insurance course, the 401k and investing basics course. So she had some free time. She shows up on her first day with the HR professional, and she sits down and she knows what an HSA is, and she elects that healthcare program. She enrolls in her 401k and starts contributing 3% of her paycheck. She's got a budget, she's saving for financial goals, and she is paying down her debt. That's student A. Student B just aged off his parents' health insurance at age 26, and he got his first job. He sat down with the HR professional, spent the 15, 30 minutes, did all the paperwork, and he just got health insurance because he's a young male, didn't really think he needed it, didn't contribute to his 401k because he doesn't know how to do that and doesn't think he can afford it. They both go on for 6 months. 6 months into it, that boy goes to work, and he's got a stomach ache, and his boss says, you need to go get that checked out. So he leaves work, and where do you think he goes? He goes straight to the hospital, because isn't that where you go? He doesn't know. So $8,000 later, after MRIs, after unnecessary tests, and after all kinds of things, he has a $5,000 deductible. So he now has a problem, and he's got a collection. Now he cannot secure a new car or an apartment, loses his job. Where you have the other student that is smart, confident, and rich, and financially independent. Which one is the future leader of our organization and of our community?
Yeah, who do you want to lead a company?
On just education. The one girl, at least she was doing this on her own time, in her own time, which is kudos to her, because most of the time that doesn't happen. And we shouldn't have to, but if we want to have economic growth, we need educated consumers on the streets and in our workforce.
You said a couple of things I think are really important to highlight, and one of them is to start with some of the basic things, like ensure you teach your children how to do their own laundry, how to cook for themselves. Give them an allowance, but actually have them earn things. Get their allowance for certain things they need to do to earn that allowance, which I would say 99% of parents probably do. But if they want to get something, maybe ask them to save up half or 10% or something, so they're invested in it. Maybe they'll treat that toy or that bike or something a little bit nicer. I know with our son, we started probably cooking with him when he was 2 or 3 years old, and one year his idea for saving some money, because he's kind of like my husband, who I'm sure is probably listening, they're a little bit on the cheap side. I mean, they try and find the best ways to do things. So his idea for prom one year was, instead of going out to I think it was homecoming, instead of going out to some fancy restaurant and spending, hundreds of dollars on a dinner, he invited her to our home, and we were living in Seattle at the time, so we had a split-level house. So they had their own space downstairs, and he cooked her chicken Alfredo, her favorite dinner, Caesar salad, had the sparkling non-alcoholic, champagne-y thing, whatever it's called, and he had rose petals that went from the front door down to where they were going to be eating, and had her name spelled in rose petals, all this kind of stuff.
God.
But, I mean, the whole idea, the whole dinner probably cost him, including the roses and everything, cost him half of what he would have spent going out, and they had a beautiful dinner, played some music by themselves, had a wonderful time, and all of their friends had gone to some crowded restaurant where the food was kind of okay. So I thought that was kind of innovative, but he was very popular in college because he knew how to cook.
Well, I'll tell you, when you sit and look at somebody's budget, and we run through Every Dollar Has a Job, people are easily spending $900 a month on eating out.
Oh,
easy. So you're right, because they simply don't know how to roast a chicken, or even, we just don't anymore. But there's a huge opportunity to save some money.
Every dollar has a job.
So that's my budget. Yeah. So budgeting, every dollar has a job. So it's just like in the online course, I talk about how when you show up at work, if those Fortune 500 companies, every position has a job description, and every employee has to do their job in order for that company to be productive. There's somebody in marketing, there's somebody in legal, there's somebody in HR, there's somebody in accounting, there's somebody on the production line, there's somebody in graphic design. Everybody has a job, and just your money, every dollar has a job. And if you don't tell it what to do, it's going to engage in some risky financial behavior. I'll tell you that. Right? So if you don't tell it that you're for my vacation, you're for my health insurance, you're for my housing, you're for my car, you're for fun. Some money just may sit around. Their job's to sit around in a bank account for the next year to make sure you can have fun next year on vacation in Hawaii.
Yeah, set a goal that you really want to do, then work towards it. So you've been doing financial wellness and education for the past 7 years. How's your work changed in the last 7 years?
I started doing financial education, really focusing on, debt management, credit score understanding, financial goals, budgeting, kind of the things we've talked about. But about 5 years into that, the Affordable Care Act came into play, and I kept hearing over and over from the corporate level about how health insurance is our biggest concern, our biggest spend. And I never thought about it as a banker, and you might be able to relate to this. I never thought as a banker how much health insurance cost someone, and how they are making easily a $10,000 a year per individual decision within 15 minutes about health insurance. And we're talking deductible, copay, HMO, PPO, formularies, co-insurance, out-of-pocket max.
My head hurts.
It hurts talking. And the Affordable Care Act, it made it mandatory that everybody have health insurance. Otherwise, they're going to get a penalty on their tax return. It took about a year and a half off and became an employee benefits broker to really dig into this space and learn everything I could about health insurance and how corporations were dealing with this, and HR professionals and the employees doing open enrollment. Basically, came back and figured out a scalable way to deliver that. So I took all my courses and put them online into a learning management portal, and built courses around health insurance and other employee benefits. And the cool thing, you asked me earlier, why financial wellness is such a hot topic. There are new product services, at least in the employee benefit space, popping up everywhere. And organizations are struggling desperately on deliver and engage those products and services in a strategic approach. So the cool thing about products and services, and insert them into the course. So once the employee learns about budgeting, then they can click on a link that'll take to the next step, which is engaging with either, some type of app or something like Double Net Pay or something else that's out there. And you can do multiple employee benefits within a course. So it's out there, and it's popular, and it's changed basically because a lot of my work is centered around trying to control the healthcare spend and have organizations and have those better educated consumers of healthcare out there. It's a big deal.
So the healthcare thing is just overwhelming. I went through it a year or so ago, trying to figure out, HMO, PPO, all the different plans. I mean, there was hundreds of things out there, and it was just overwhelming for me as a business professional to understand that. So you're saying that you have all these courses online, like this, how to negotiate and figure out the healthcare mess. We can take an online course on that, and again, remind us where we can get that. So tell us a little about that, and remind us again where we can find it.
That is exactly, and I think you said a lot of your people that are listening out there may be entrepreneurs, and a lot of times we leave our corporate job and we may not realize how expensive health insurance is. It is complicated, and my most robust course is on health insurance, and it's Health Insurance Smarter, Better, Faster. healthcare. And so money starts here. People contact me. We can talk about that. But you're right. It is so complicated. And people don't know. This is what is just crazy to me. We have HSAs and HRAs and FSAs. Those are all
three-letter acronyms. I call them TLAs, three-letter acronyms. Can you say what those were again?
Yes. So basically, they're healthcare tax saver account where you can put money into these accounts and there's tax advantages and you get to spend it. So you'll hear a lot of the HSA in the current administration's take on how we're going to modify the Affordable Care Act. When you are spending your own money in some type of tax saver account for healthcare, you need to know that the same prescription at Costco that costs $18 at Walgreens could cost $256. The average consumer does not know that, and they don't know how to shop, and they don't want to shop because they're sick and they're tired and they don't have the energy. But these are real dollars that we need to figure out and become better educated consumers of healthcare. The numbers are staggering, and it's in the news. We see it constantly. So what's interesting is when I open up the portal and I have all these courses, nobody runs straight to health insurance, smarter, better, faster. They never go to that course first. They always go to the Every Dollar Has a Job budgeting course because that's about them. In a lot of the scholarship work that I'm doing with some of the colleges, the students right before they graduate college and go into the workforce, they are required as part of their scholarship to take this course so that when they get to that HR professional, they make the right selection and they are making an educated consumer of healthcare for their entire life. Because once you get into a habit, you've got to make sure that you know you're doing, right? Same thing in the organization. It can be a requirement for these organizations for their employees to actually take these courses, especially if they're a self-funded group. I don't want to get technical on the whole underwriting process, but it's just like banking. It's all based on utilization claims. And when you've got a lot of claims for financial stressed people on your plan, that drives up healthcare costs for the employee and the employer.
Right. Well, that's great to know. Sounds like a great course. Everybody in the audience should go to Money Starts Here and take the healthcare course as well as some of the other courses like Every Dollar Matters. I think that's really critical. So in your experience, what are the top money mistakes that people make and why? And then maybe is there a difference of top money mistakes women make and why? So talk about people first and let's talk about women.
Well, pretty much, I always like to start with the one thing that you can keep in your mind that can totally change the way that you think about money. And it's one of the big mistakes people do is they don't know how much an hour of their time is worth. When you go to work every day and you get your paycheck, every hour at work is worth something. So if you were to take your net take-home pay and divide it by the number of hours, let's just say you had hourly wage that take-home pay, an hour of your time was worth $25. Well, when we go into just talk about eating out, an hour of my time, I'm going to go out to dinner tonight, and I'm going to spend $50 to eat out. Do I want to spend 2 hours of my working time to eat out? Do I want to spend 4 hours of my time to pay for those $100 shoes? So when you don't know what an hour of your time is worth, once you do that calculation, you start going, hey, I don't want to have to work 4 hours for those shoes.
Right.
So it can change. So I would say mistake number one is not really valuing an hour of your time. Number two, I would say not having every dollar have a job and allowing that money to run around like children unsupervised and engage in risky financial behavior.
That's an interesting analogy. Unsupervised children running around the house. It's like your money running around aimlessly.
Aimlessly doing, and that's what happens to us when we're living life very stressed. And the third would be really not having financial goals and not stopping and asking yourself, what do you want? If I was to sit down with you, I want to know, what do you want? What is important to you? When you stop, I think that's the biggest thing that we don't do in our society is we never stop. We are constantly going. And the great thing is it's the beginning of the year. And we have bonuses. Some companies are paying out bonuses. Some people are getting a tax return. Some people are going to raise. There are some financial windfalls that could really change the direction of our financial life if we stopped right now and asked ourselves, you can get anywhere. I'm in California. If I plugged in my GPS and said I wanted to go to New York, it would just calculate how to get there, right?
Right.
Is the GPS ever going to come back and say, Denise, what are you, crazy? That's 3,000 miles. You're never going to get there.
How much of your time does that take, right? What's your hourly rate?
So many times we say we want something, but right behind it comes all of the negative talk that says that, can't get that. It's too much. How are you going to get there is the next question. That's what the GPS would do, is it would actually give you the next step, being able to get to where you want to go.
We tend to put everybody else first. When times were tough and it was Christmas time, we would do things for the kids, but never for ourselves or whatever. We tend to put ourselves not first on our things to do list, which is a big mistake. We tend to put ourselves last on our things to do list. And sometimes you don't even make the list. Anything in particular, mistakes you see women make that would be more dramatic or different?
Because I'm a mother, my daughter just got married. Okay, so
congratulations.
Thank you. One of the hardest things that I have found as a woman and as a mother to do is to say no when it jeopardizes my financial future. Mm-hmm. And when I constantly step in as a parent and save the day, I'm silently sending her a message that I don't think she can handle it. That was a really hard lesson for me to learn. I learned that actually from Brian Tracy at a seminar one time. And I thought, wow, when we step in as parents. So I think wanting our children to have everything we didn't have, or wanting them to have things because they want to have them, we don't get what we want all the time. I see birthday parties. I see Halloween costumes. I see Christmas gifts, all unnecessary, that are going to be untouched in a matter of 3 weeks.
Right.
So many times we put emphasis on things instead of experiences. I will tell you, your son cooking that young girl a meal with rose petals. Seriously, that was an experience.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to a restaurant with a bunch of friends and being diluted. That was a very much experience. And I find more about the experience. Let's go for a picnic. Let's go ride horses on the beach. Let's go for a bike ride. Let's take a vacation. Your memories grow in value, not depreciate.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I just heard something this morning on Good Morning America that the average cost of a wedding in the U.S. is like $35,000, and it's like $75,000 in New York. I'm seeing more and more kids, including my son and his new wife. They got married a year ago, July. She made their her bridesmaids' dresses. She made the flowers out of paper because if you buy the flowers, they're just going to die anyway. So she made these beautiful papier-mâché flowers. My son made all the centerpieces because they're in Washington. So he made these beautiful centerpieces out of wood that he engraved their name, the Grimms, on. Very special moment at way less than $35,000.
I know. It is absolutely crazy.
You want to create the memory, but you don't have to spend $35,000 or $75,000 to have a memory.
Yeah, if money's no object, that's great. Unfortunately, like I said, the leading cause of divorce, what I see, especially for second marriages and some young people, when they take it on themselves and they really insist, their parents give them a budget and then they go over the budget, so they start their marriage
in a hole.
I had one girl come in and she said, Denise, I just found that my fiance has been withholding that he has $100,000 in credit card debt. What should I do? I said, what do you think you should do? And she says, I think I should wait to marry him until we can get that taken care of. And you know what? She didn't. She married him anyway. The tough part is it's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And you just have to be aware that that's coming on you and what that can do to your relationship. And again, your health and your productivity and your ability to, and your earnings power.
Right.
Because when you're stressed, your earnings power is not where it can be.
Imagine starting out your new life as a couple and worrying about $100,000 in credit card debt. That's amazing. So one of the most popular topics that you talk about is how to get what you want. Can you share a few tips? And then I'll ask you maybe one more question after that. We're going to have to wrap up shortly. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The most popular talk?
Yeah, the most popular talk I do, and I do this a lot of times, I'm always talking about money, but I actually like to talk about you and how you can be everything you want to be. In that talk, I ask people 3 things, really. What are you good at? What do you love to do? And how can you be helpful? And when you really stop and ask yourself those questions, it's pretty amazing not only how you might be able to make a living at it, but also how you can do something pretty profound. Anybody can write a check. But when you give your time, talent, and resources, sometimes it becomes very, very valuable. An example would be, I'm just going to say, just for kids even, say my husband loves dogs. He's great with dogs. He's good at taking care of them. He's good at nursing them back to health. And so we're part of the Great Pyrenees Rescue. And so we rescue dogs. We nurse them back to health. Well, then how can I be helpful? That's helpful in itself. But how can I do what I love to do? So we also take those animals in and do pet therapy with people at retirement homes and skilled nursing facilities. And so it's good for the dog, it's good for us, it's good for the venue and for the patients. And we get to see 100% of our donation into play. We get to see the smiles on their faces. We get to see the dogs wagging their tail. We get to get a smile and maybe a tear just because somebody is so overwhelmed with how wonderful it is to see an animal licking and drooling and breathing heavily on them with fur.
Yeah. With my pug and the pug rescue, they'll be covered in fur because there's one thing about pugs. They sneeze, they snore, they shed like crazy. But we're the pug rescue and do a number of things as well. So, looking back at yourself, I mean, if you were looking back at your 20-year-old self and you were going to give yourself advice about life, about money, what would be your sort of words of advice?
I would say, and I say this often in my motivational talk, I have a couple of talks that I give, is that there's a reason for everything. Everything. And I will tell you, I've been through some pretty difficult moments in my life, as with everybody else out there. We're all gone through things, but I feel like all of those difficult times were like a diamond. And what do we know about diamonds? They're the hardest. They shine brilliantly. They take a long time to form. They're formed under the most intense heat and pressure. When you have that diamond and those experiences, I feel like all of them were there so that today I can use them to be strong, be valuable, and shine brilliantly and help others do the same. So, just really looking back, have hope and know that there's a reason for everything, and to be able to use what you've learned to help others get what they want in their lives and deal with some of the most difficult things they've had to deal with.
Make a difference and leave a legacy. Right. So live your life in a way that you're going to leave a legacy. So great. And one more time, how do we get a hold of you? And I've got a few closing comments, and then we'll do a wrap pretty quickly. So how do we get a hold of you again, Denise Winston?
So it would be at moneystartshere.com. When you're thinking about money, people say, where do I start? Moneystartshere.com. Or DeniseWinston.com. Either one. Either one you can remember. Winston Churchill, Winston Tires, Denise Winston, or Money Starts Here.
Well, you've been a wonderful guest, and we have to figure out some place or some time when the two of us can get together. We'll get together on our own Skype calls. I think we'd have a wonderful time. So thanks, everybody, for listening today. Really appreciate you listening. We appreciate your feedback. Again, my name is Patty Grimm. I'm an author, speaker, radio show host, and trainer. You can contact me at pattygrimm@live.com, and that's PATTIEGRIMM@LIV.com. You can contact me if you have topics you'd like to hear about on the show. You can contact me if you'd like to be a guest on the show, if you have something you're passionate about you want to share with our audience. Again, we focus on women and issues they care about. Also, too, if you'd like to call me to book me for a speaking session or a webinar or a conference, I'm happy to do those speeches on my Women Kicking Glass series, which I have quite a number of different topics. Remember, you can buy my book on Amazon. The book is called Quiet Women Never Change History. Be Strong, Stand Up, Stand Out, with the subtitle of Let's Go Kick Some Glass. And so each week my goal is to bring you information that is helpful, practical, and strategies you can put in place to lead your best personal, professional, and financial life. So thanks, everybody, and have a great week. Thanks, Denise, and let's go kick some glass.
Thanks for listening to Women Kicking Glass, the only radio show on OC Talk Radio dedicated to empowering women to be the best they can be. Listen each week or download the podcast at patty.grimm.podbean.com. To reach out to Patty to schedule a speech webinar or to learn more about her leadership and team training, contact Patty at pattygrimm@live.com for more information about her company and her books. Have a kicking day.